Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring once more the Gadjah Mada, the Tier 7 Pan-Asian destroyer. Now the last time I featured this one it was still a work in progress and I kinda thought they would maybe tune it down a bit, but turns out they did not. So the ship was released in exactly the same state as it was during testing, which of course means that I consider the ship monstrously strong. First things, I push into the cap. The concealment on the ship is 6.1, which means you can easily contest caps against any same tier DDs, even higher tier DDs, and of course in a straight up gunfight your advantage is massive. That Akatsuki slowed down and smoked up behind cover as quickly as he could. I still dealt 5000 damage to him, and I took, well, 0 damage in return. With speed boost active, it's a fairly fast and nimble ship as well, so honestly, why not take the trade? Very beneficial trade for me, and right now I'm just gonna wait. I'm contesting the cap, which means he can't cap it. There's no way he can cap it. He has used his smoke, so the only way for him to really dislodge me is for him to reverse or move out of the smoke and somehow make me move. But as long as I'm sitting here, well, there's really not much he can do. And of course I don't want to give him the cap for free. I have an advantage. I get a health advantage, firepower advantage, consumable advantage. He's used his smoke, I have not, which means the next time we fight I can smoke up, whereas he's in the open. If there's someone close by who can spot him, that means I automatically win the fight very easily. So while I wait, I just rain down some fire on the Scharnhorst in the background. A Hatsuharu pops up here though, surprisingly playing very aggressively. I'm trying to see if I could maybe harass him. These are of course both of these situations. If these weren't deep water torps, I'd be torping both the Akatsuki and the Hatsuharu. But of course, because of deep water torps, there's no point in wasting the torpedoes on that. I'm reversing back into the cap. No, Hatsuharu is still here. I gotta be careful with pushing out here because it's very likely that the Hatsuharu is actually torping the Mayoko that's next to me. So if I push up too aggressively and give too much broadside, I can get punished even though I'm not the intended target. And even though I'm pointed almost nose in, we can of course see the Gadjah Mada's absolutely insane firing angles. You see how sharply I'm angled in and still able to use all my guns. And that is of course the power of these incredible firing angles, which is one of the reasons why I consider this ship a bit too strong for its tier, because, well, there's really no downsides when chasing down other DDs, or, well, chasing down anyone really. You can angle very sharply against the incoming fire and torpedoes while still being able to bring all your firepower to bear, which of course means that the Gadjah is excellent at picking fight with other DDs. My Fubuki presses out wide, trying to dislodge this Akatsuki. He actually manages to trade his life for a kill, which is surprisingly good, but he does go down. The Hatsuharu should be going down. He was spotted with almost no health. I had broken his engine, and I think it's one of those that don't even run last stand, which of course is something I highly recommend against. If you're gonna play a DD, get last stand. It's one of those perks that are must-have. It's not even optional, it's a must-have. Kinda like Concealment Expert unless you're a gunboat DD. And even on most gunboats you still want it. Okay, we know exactly where the Akatsuki is. He hasn't repositioned himself, so this makes ambushing him very easy at this point. I might take some fire from his teammates, but ultimately I want to get rid of him and secure the cap. He pops up, he's finally trying to reposition because he realizes, maybe he understands he can't sit there forever, but he has no smoke since he used it earlier, and this is a very easy kill for me. I guess he's trying to torp me or whatever, but I shoot him down. I already start smoking before he dies because I know how low he is, and I managed to secure the kill quite easily, and now I have my own smoke and I can just hide in the cap and secure it for my team. And of course trying to rain down some fire on any incoming enemies that are pushing my way. At this point we need to start looking a bit on my team's positioning, which is of course always a dreadful thing, looking at your teammates. As sadly in this game positioning is something people struggle with a lot. And you can see that my team is positioning north of C. Now we have C. They have A. The objective that is currently being contested is B. Therefore, our team should be projecting their force between C and B. They can defend C, and they can impose on B, help me out, and so forth, and secure it. Instead, they are north of C, which of course means that they have almost no influence on B. It's only me solo capping it that's giving it to us, and in general they are quite horribly out of position. Even worse is that most of my teammates are moving up there already. You can see my Scharnhorst, my Queen Elizabeth, they're all moving towards the capture point we already have. So I can already tell that this game might not be as easy as I first assumed, because my teammates have horrible positioning pretty much across the board. In fact, the King George has a fairly good positioning right next to me, because he's got central control, and he's pretty much the only one giving me vision of this Koenig. So he is playing a very central role, which is very useful. At this point I realize, because of the positioning of my teammates, I'm going to see if I can maybe push A. See if I can maybe secure it. There's a Colorado in the way, but if I can kill this Koenig and this Colorado, I might be able to secure A for our team. And the longer the enemy team wastes in their spawn fighting my team, the better for us. Because of the enemy team positioning isn't that good either. All of my forces are at C. The enemy team is spread out. They shouldn't be picking a fight with those guys at C. They should just be kiting away and capping B instead. You never want to fight where the enemy is the strongest. And in this case, my team is by far the strongest at C, whereas they only have a few ships there. So any fight they take there will be horribly outnumbered. So there's no point in them taking that fight. They should just kite away, delay them, and cap B, force me out of position. Luckily though, it seems like they're not quite aware of this decision making, and well, they're slowly moving towards B, but it is extremely slow. King George goes down. I drop the torps. I mentioned that these torps are very, very good. You can drop 10 of them. They're only 8 kilometers of range, and the cooldown is absolutely massive on them, but the damage they can deal is monumental. I drop them the same way I drop Shimakaze torps, which is right next to each other, making this large curtain of torpedoes. You might not land as many, meaning you might not get a devastating strike, but you'll probably land 2 if your aim is good, and that means of course a guaranteed flooding. Well, 2 torpedoes is almost a guaranteed flooding, and in this case I do hit 2 torps and I do get my guaranteed flooding. So now of course I want to set a fire on him with my guns, because the guns are ultimately the bread and butter of the Gadjah Mada. I see their team is actually starting to do what I recommended a while ago, which is of course pressure B. Now ideally this Koenig, this Colorado would all both be pressuring my smoke. They would box me in from both sides and I'd have no escape and I would die. But in general, people are very afraid of smoked up DDs. They are quite cowardly when it comes to decision making like that, so I'm feeling fairly safe. The problem is, looking at the minimap, is these 2 guys, the Queen Elizabeth and the Budionni. They might easily start pushing the smoke, and in fact the Queen Elizabeth is starting to push towards the B objective point. I start pinging my teammates, try to get them to react here, because I can delay them, but if they really push B, I'm alone versus pretty much their entire team. I have almost no backup. If they start pushing B, I will be forced to yield. I will be forced to give up B, and they will be able to secure it. You notice that I'm glancing to my right constantly, and that is because there's a Budionni here as well, and I need to know what distance away he is. He does show himself briefly. I think the Koenigsberg spots him because he's firing, and that's excellent for me, because now I know that he is 6 kilometers away. Budionni torps have a range of 4 kilometers. If that Budionni had been within 4 kilometers, I would have been in serious trouble and been forced to instantly move. But because he's 6 kilometers away, I know that his torps can't reach me, and I also know if I stop firing, I should be able to get undetected. However, a spotter plane does unfortunately spot me, but luckily I am running my own recommended build, which I mentioned multiple times is fantastic, which of course involves the shorter cooldown on smokes, aka jack of all trades, and of course the consumable flag as well. So you note that the downtime I have between smokes is practically non-existent, so whenever my smoke runs out, I'm able to re-smoke instantly. I get pretty unfortunate with torpedoes. Well, unfortunate and unfortunate. I mentioned multiple times that torping directly at an incoming ship is never really a good idea, because there's such a high chance that your torps will miss, because the gaps tend to be so wide, or well, it's so easy to fit a battleship between them. And in this case I seem to have really unfortunate spread, with one of the torps going extremely wide, leaving a huge gap for him. However, these are deep water torps, so he doesn't actually see them, and he turns right in front of one and only realizes it too late. The Budionni has been unspotted for a while though, which means I highly suspect he might be pushing my smoke finally. Because I've been focusing on the Queen Elizabeth, and the Budioni should be able to capitalize. And he is, in fact, capitalizing. He is charging my smoke. My torps are on cooldown for another 30 seconds. I don't want to take a fight close range with a cruiser. I might be able to win, sure, but I will lose almost all my health. It's not worth the trade-off. Plus, I don't know exactly what the Colorado is doing either. So I kite away. I make sure the smoke bubble is between me and him. So even though I'm not in my smoke, I'm still using my smoke to cover my exit. My smoke will fade in 3 seconds, but that's not really too much of an issue because once again I'm running the smoke cooldown build, which means I get spotted, he starts turning his guns, I start shooting him, and I'm already re-smoking at this point. So I repositioned my smoke quite easily, and this is of course the power of this Pan-Asian DD smokes. If you use them efficiently, you can leapfrog from smoke to smoke, and it makes it so very, very powerful. I dropped some torps, but he is angling quite sharply. I switched to AP in case he's going to give me broadside. He's not that stupid. He stays angled in, so I switch back to HE instead. And of course I aim for his superstructure, including his guns actually, because I don't know if I can actually break them, but maybe I might be able to damage them as he pushes in. More importantly though, I just want raw damage. I force the repair. And I really need to kill him fast, because I will get spotted from firing from the smoke very soon, but it's too late for him, and I do kill him off. My team, a large part of my team is still very out of position, but luckily the enemy team remained fighting them at C. If my team had... Well, if I had died, of course, we would have had some serious issues, because then they would have gotten B, and they would be pushing the flank and surrounding my team. But since I managed to survive, and since the enemy team didn't pull all their forces away, but instead they stayed fighting what is essentially a losing battle, it allowed me to do enough work to actually squeeze out the victory at B, and B remains in our hands, which is very important at this point because it's actually still a 6 versus 6, even though I've killed 3 people. Our Mutsuki is, I guess, hunting the kills over there, and I figured I might as well go and cap A. The Colorado is still playing extremely passively at A. This is a very common thing. Battleships love camping at A. They just sit here and sit here. They snipe, they're afraid to push, they don't really do much, and that's why they love A, because this is for some reason the battleship favorite cap to just sit and snipe. So of course I want to punish this. Which means I'm gonna get as close as possible before dropping my torps, because they are quite fast, they hit quite hard. I need to make sure though that I'm ready to drop the torps as soon as I get within 2 kilometers, because even if there's an island between us, proximity spotting kicks in at 2, I get spotted, but I'm already almost within torp range, and I turn hard in as I drop my torps, and that's of course because if his guns start aiming at me, I want to be able to out-turn his turret traverse. You can see his guns are actually trying to track me, but I'm turning in, which means his guns can't keep up with me. And my torps hit him and finish him off. It didn't matter if he had accelerated or not, because I dropped torps in front of him as well if he tries to accelerate. Shanbei is rushing me. He's full HP. I'm, what, 8-9k health? But what can he do? He can't do anything. So I just stop. I stop my ship, full broadside, park him right in front of him. What exactly is he going to do? He's a Pan-Asian DD. He can't torp me, because deep water torps can't hit me. And in a straight up gunfight, well, I outgun him heavily. So he starts panic smoking when he realizes I'm not just gonna flee or whatever. Instead, I just slow down and take the fight, because of course Gadjah Mada's one of the most incredible strengths of this ship is of course the incredible firepower, and the Shanwei doesn't have particularly good firepower. I mean, it's okay for tier 5, but I'm a tier 7, so I'm more than happy to just slow down and take the fight. He especially tried to angle in to rush me, since I guess he thought I would start running, but that also limited the amount of guns he could bring to bear against me. So that was a very easy kill. What on earth he was doing at A, I have no idea. Why was he still at A? He should have been pressuring B with his teammates, but this kind of mispositioning that these two guys showed is very common. People don't understand when they should be pressuring caps and when they should be defending them. And somehow the enemy team managed to win the fight at C. I mean, it cost them the game, because they wasted so much time fighting a numerically superior enemy. So it took them so long to do this that by the time they actually managed to overwhelm my team there and push the cap, I've capped the entire rest of the map, and we're gonna win on points, even though it's still only a 4 versus 3. and I have two extremely low health teammates. So this was kind of a, both my team and the enemy team misplayed this position wise heavily, but I was able to capitalize because I'm playing a gunboat with that is extremely strong for its tier. And finally, of course, the game ends, and this is where it gets pretty damn amusing. And that is because we look at my XP. 27.7k XP. 4.8k or 4.9k free XP. I of course got the Devastating Strike, Confederate High Caliber Kraken, which blah 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 blah, you did a lot of damage kind of rewards. I took 2 solo caps as well, so this all adds up. In fact, if we look at the team score, we have 2.8k base XP. The guy who came second was actually a Königsberg, which is pretty amusing, but he has less than half of my XP. So this of course all contributes, and if we move on to look at the detailed report, well, it's not really that. I mean, a surprising amount of torpedo damage. I usually don't get too much Gadjah Mada torpedo damage, unless of course people YOLO you. That tends to be a good source of it, or I YOLO someone else, in this case the Colorado. He gave me like, what, almost 50k of my torpedo damage. Anyway, this is of course where it gets very interesting when we move on to the credits and XP. This is why, of course, I got such a ridiculous amount of XP, and this is something I want to highlight since you should make use of it as long as it lasts. That is, I think it lasts all the way until the end of December. If you completed the Pan-Asian missions, there were pre-missions during before the line came out. If you completed it, you got a combat mission called Pan-Asia Rule the Waves. And this one gives you plus 100% XP for the 15 first wins. So 15 wins in Pan-Asian DDs plus 100% XP. Then we have, of course, Type 59 Camo. This is pretty hard to get. It costs you doubloons, or if you have a clan in Typhoon, I think you need to win the 30 battles you win in Typhoon. I don't know if it's that many, but if you win a certain amount of battles in clan battles, you get 50 of these camos. This gives you another 200%. You have Equal Speed Charlie London, the basic equal speed flag. Everyone should probably have of this. That's another 50%. Red Dragon Hydra. Hopefully you've been saving these flags, because these are the only 2 special flags that give you normal XP, not Captain XP, but also normal XP, and these are of course exceptionally useful. And we have daily win bonus. This was my first win of the day, which is another 50%, and we have of course clan bonus, which is another 3%. So all of this combines into this massive, ridiculous, huge XP pot, which gave me 27.7k XP. And considering it takes you 110k XP to go from a fully upgraded Gadjah Mada to the tier 8, it means I just got a quarter of my XP in a single game. Amusingly, I've had another game very similar to this where I got 24k XP as well, so I literally completed half of my grind in 2 games. So make use of these bonuses while you can. If you have a bunch of XP flags to stack on top of each other, a camo and such as this, you can really make the number quite obscene, and it makes it very, very easy to grind at least the first 15 wins in the Pan-Asian line. Anyway, that was all for me. If you want my build, I can link the commentary to my original Gadjah Mada build, since I haven't changed my build. I perfected the build during the testing session, and I absolutely love this build. I think it's about as optimal as it can get. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed it.